with Bass U TV. You know, I want to talk with you guys about one of my favorite techniques ever invented in the history of bass fishing, punching mats. You know, I grew up fishing some little lakes that had a bunch of grass, but more importantly, you know, the California Delta, Clear Lake. Like I said, there's a little lake called Santa Margarita. I call it a mini Clear Lake, and I'm a grass fanatic, and punching is total hand-to-hand combat, and it all starts with the proper equipment. You know, so I'm going to go into that. So right away, the first thing is you got to have the right rod. This here is a 711 extra heavy ritual angling rod. The reason I like that length is because you're going to have more leverage on those fish. You know, you're flipping mats, you're flipping grass, hyacinth, matted weeds, matted reeds. I mean, you name it. You got to have power, but you also got to have a soft enough tip to allow them to get the bait. You don't want a broomstick. I helped develop this rod. You can see right there. This one is, like I said, it's extra heavy. I have a prototype one actually that I sampled a week ago, and I really, really like it. I had to send it back to tell them it's perfect, let's make more of them. And that rod is going to be a little bit more parabolic, so when I'm flipping that deep hydrilla. But again, I think it's critical to have a 7-foot 11 rod or an 8-foot rod. Guys, if it's the right action and you're not comfortable with that long of a rod, a 7'6" will do the job also. But really, you got to have the right action of the rod. That's the number one thing. The second most important thing I feel is the reel. This here is a Shimano Bantam HG. It just came out this past ICAST. It's designed for hand-to-hand combat, braid fishing, heavy grass. You know, I throw my frogs, I punch, flip, a lot of different things on it. It's geared and tuned for these type of situations. High speed gear ratio, that's another really important aspect of this. When you hit one in a mat, a lot of times it'll eat it on the drop and it'll be 3 foot away from where it just bit. You got to have the power and the gear ratio to catch up with that fish and get them out of that mat as quick as possible. It's all really important. I know I keep repeating myself. Another huge important factor is the braided line. I use Sunline FX2 60-pound braid, I would say 90% of the time. Sometimes at 10% of the time, I'll go to 50 if the water's extremely clear. I'm flipping kind of sparse, kind of lightly matted hydrilla or milfoil, something like that. But 90% of the time, 60-pound FX2 Sunline braid. Then we're gonna get into the hook and weight. So right here I got, this is an 1.25 ounce Eco Pro tungsten weight, punch weight. You don't have to have an insert in it. That's really the number one thing I like about Eco Pro tungsten. I've fished with a lot of tungsten over my career, and knowing and having the confidence that there is not, you know, a nick in here or anything like that. Is extremely polished inside, so my braid is never gonna, I'm never gonna break off because there's a problem with the inside of that weight. So last but not least is the hook. This here is a Trokar monster flipping hook. Trokar actually makes a regular flipping hook, but for this style of fishing, you want the monster. And what that does is it eliminates the flex. Like, you don't want a hook that you can bend open with your fingers, because when you do, the amount of force being created when you hit one with 60-pound braid on a 711 rod and a high gear ratio reel, it's gonna flex that hook open and you're gonna get your feelings hurt, so you don't want that to happen. The monster flipping hook. This here is a 3/0.